There's something about spiritually awakened women that makes people uncomfortable. Something that threatens the status quo so deeply that society has spent centuries trying to suppress it. Carl Jung knew this. He saw it in his patients, in the women who came to him broken by a world that demanded they shrink themselves to fit into boxes that were never meant for them. But here's what Jung discovered, and what every spiritually awakened woman eventually learns. The very things you've been taught to accept as normal are the exact things keeping you from your true power. Today, we're going to explore the profound insights Jung had about the feminine psyche, and why awakened women instinctively reject certain patterns that others blindly follow. This isn't about being difficult or rebellious. This is about recognizing your authentic self and refusing to betray it. If you're a woman who's ever felt like you don't fit in, like you see through the illusions that others accept without question, then this message is for you. The first thing awakened women reject: living for others' approval. Jung wrote extensively about what he called the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. For most women, this mask becomes a prison. Society teaches you from childhood that your worth is determined by how well you please others, how perfectly you can mold yourself to meet everyone else's expectations. But spiritually awakened women see through this lie. They understand what Jung meant when he said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The irritation you feel when someone expects you to dim your light, to speak softer, to take up less space, that's not your problem to fix. That's their shadow being triggered by your authenticity. Here's the brutal truth. When you live for approval, you're not living at all. You're performing. And the audience never stops demanding new acts. Think about the women in your life who seem to glow from within. The ones who speak their truth regardless of how it's received. The ones who pursue their passions even when others call them selfish or impractical. These women have made a fundamental choice. They've chosen themselves over the comfortable lie of universal approval. The shadow of perfectionism. Jung's concept of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've repressed or denied, manifests in women through the relentless pursuit of perfection. But awakened women recognize perfectionism for what it truly is, a sophisticated form of self-abuse dressed up as virtue. You see, perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about control. It's about trying to make yourself so flawless that you become immune to criticism, rejection, or abandonment. But this is an impossible goal that leaves you exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from your true self. Awakened women understand Jung's teaching that the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. They know that perfection is not just unattainable, it's undesirable. Because in the pursuit of perfection, you lose the beautiful messines that makes you human. The second rejection, toxic relationships as normal. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Society has normalized toxic relationship dynamics to such a degree that healthy boundaries are often labeled as cold or selfish. But spiritually, awakened women have developed what Jung called psychological differentiation, the ability to distinguish between their emotions and others. They refuse to accept being responsible for managing other people's emotions, staying in relationships where they're consistently disrespected, the belief that love requires sacrifice of self, the idea that setting boundaries makes them difficult. Jung observed that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. but transformation should elevate both parties, not diminish one for the comfort of the other. Awakened women understand that real love, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, doesn't demand you shrink. It doesn't ask you to ignore red flags or accept crumbs. It doesn't require you to be grateful for the bare minimum. The sacred no. There's a reason why the word no feels so powerful when it comes from a woman who truly means it. It's because she's accessing what Jung called the wise woman. Archetype, the part of the feminine psyche that sees through manipulation and refuses to be diminished. But society has trained women to fear their own no. You've been taught that saying no makes you selfish, difficult, or mean. That's not accidental. A woman who can say no with conviction is a woman who can't be controlled. The third rejection, the scarcity mindset. Jung understood that the unconscious mind doesn't distinguish between literal and symbolic truth. This is why awakened women reject the pervasive belief that there isn't enough love, enough success, enough happiness to go around. They see through what Jung called collective unconscious patterns that keep women competing against each other instead of supporting one another. They refuse to believe that another woman's success diminishes their own possibilities. This rejection of scarcity shows up in profound ways. They celebrate other women instead of feeling threatened. They pursue their dreams without needing permission. They trust their intuition over popular opinion. They create abundance instead of hoarding resources. The integration process now. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. The journey of individuation, becoming who you truly are, requires integrating your shadow, not eliminating it. For women, this means acknowledging the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide or deny, the anger you've been told to suppress, the ambition you've been told to downplay, the sexuality you've been told to shame, the intelligence you've been told to diminish. Awakened women don't try to become perfect versions of femininity. They become whole. And wholeness includes darkness as well as light, strength as well as softness, independence as well as connection. The fourth rejection, the martyrdom complex. Perhaps the most insidious trap that awakened women refuse is the glorification of suffering. Society has romanticized the idea of the self-sacrificing woman who gives until she has nothing left, who finds her identity in how much she can endure. But Jung warned against this kind of unconscious suffering. He distinguished between necessary growth through difficult experiences and the neurotic attachment to pain that keeps us stuck. Awakened women understand that their suffering doesn't make them holy. Their healing does. They reject the belief that good women always put others first, the idea that asking for help is weakness, the notion that their needs are less important than others, the expectation to be endlessly available and accommodating, the collective pressure. Here's what most people don't understand about awakened women. The resistance they face isn't personal. It's collective. When you start living authentically, you become a mirror that reflects back everyone else's compromises and self-betrayals. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Most people are not ready for this level of self-acceptance, so they project their fear onto women who are doing the work they're afraid to do." This is why awakened women often experience criticism for being too much or too intense, attempts to shame them back into conformity, projection of others' insecurities onto their choices, isolation when they refuse to participate in toxic dynamics. But they understand that this resistance is actually confirmation they're on the right path. The fifth rejection, spiritual bypassing even within spiritual communities. Awakened women refuse to accept the subtle ways that growth is used to avoid responsibility. They see through what Jung would recognize as the shadow of spirituality, the use of spiritual concepts to bypass human psychological development. They won't accept being told to just send love and light when facing real problems, the pressure to forgive before they've processed their pain, spiritual concepts used to dismiss their legitimate concerns, the expectation to be endlessly positive and peaceful. True spiritual awakening, as Jung understood, includes psychological integration. It's not about transcending your humanity. It's about embracing it fully while connecting to something greater. The archetypal feminine power. Jung identified several feminine archetypes, but awakened women embody what he called the self, the integrated, whole version of who they are. This isn't the maiden who seeks approval, the mother who sacrifices everything, or the crone who's bitter about her losses. This is the woman who has integrated all aspects of her feminine nature and claims her full power. She is nurturing but not self-sacrificing, strong but not aggressive, independent but not isolated, spiritual but not naive, compassionate but not codependent. The transformation process. What Jung discovered through his work with women is that awakening isn't a destination, it's an ongoing process of choosing authenticity over acceptance, truth over comfort, growth over stagnation. This process involves recognizing the patterns. The first step is seeing how you've been conditioned to accept less than you deserve. This recognition often comes with grief for the years spent dimming your light, for the opportunities missed while people-pleasing, for the relationships that couldn't handle your growth. Honoring the resistance. When you start changing, everyone around you will resist. Your family might guilt you. Your friends might withdraw. Your partner might feel threatened. This is normal, and it's not your job to manage their discomfort with your evolution. Trusting your inner voice, Jung emphasized the importance of what he called the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing truths and find your own path through them. Awakened women develop this capacity. They can hear all the voices, societal expectations, family pressures, cultural norms, and still choose what feels true for them. The sacred rage. Let's talk about something that makes people especially uncomfortable, the anger of awakened women. Jung understood that anger, properly channeled, is a force for individuation and social change. When a woman wakes up to how she's been diminished, silenced, or controlled, anger is the appropriate response. This isn't the destructive rage of victimhood. It's the sacred fury of someone reclaiming their power. Society wants women's anger to be quiet, polite, and quickly forgiven. But awakened women understand that their anger is information. It tells them where their boundaries have been crossed, where they've betrayed themselves, where change is needed. The ripple effect. Here's what happens when a woman fully awakens. She becomes a catalyst for awakening in others, not through preaching or convincing, but simply through being. Her presence gives other women permission to examine their own lives, to question what they've accepted, to imagine different possibilities. Jung called this constellation, the way one person's psychological state can activate similar energies in others. An awakened woman doesn't need to try to change the world. Her authenticity does it naturally. The paradox of feminine power. Jung understood something profound about feminine energy. Its power lies not in domination, but in creation. Not in control, but in flow. Not in hardness, but in the kind of softness that can hold the weight of truth. Awakened women embody this paradox. They are fierce in their gentleness, powerful in their vulnerability, strong in their capacity to feel deeply. They understand that their sensitivity isn't weakness, it's their superpower. The call to authenticity. Every awakened woman reaches a point Jung called the night sea journey, a dark period where everything she thought she knew about herself is questioned. This is terrifying and necessary. In this darkness, she meets her shadow, her unlived life, her suppressed dreams. She sees all the ways she's betrayed herself for the comfort of others. And she makes a choice that changes everything. She chooses herself. Not in a selfish way, but in a self-honoring way. She understands what Jung meant when he said, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart." Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. So here's my challenge to you. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. What are you accepting that an awakened version of yourself would never tolerate? What relationships are you maintaining that drain your energy instead of nourishing your soul? What dreams are you postponing because others told you they were unrealistic? What parts of yourself are you hiding because they make others uncomfortable? Jung spent his life studying the human psyche. And one thing he knew for certain, the world doesn't need more women who are perfectly acceptable to everyone. The world needs women who are perfectly true to themselves. Your awakening isn't selfish, it's essential. Not just for you, but for every woman who needs to see that it's possible to live authentically in a world that profits from her self-doubt. The women who came before us fought for our right to vote, to work, to choose our own paths. Now it's our turn to fight for something even more fundamental, the right to be fully ourselves without apology. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, was the most important work a human being could do. For women, this work is revolutionary. Because when a woman knows who she is and refuses to accept anything less than what she deserves, she doesn't just change her own life. She changes the world. The question isn't whether you're ready for this awakening. The question is, are you willing to keep living asleep? Your authentic self is waiting. She's been waiting your whole life. And she's not going to wait forever. What would she never accept? Start there. The world needs your awakening. But more importantly, you need your awakening. It's time. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you've been accepting in your life that you know your awakened self would never tolerate? Let's support each other in this journey of becoming who we're truly meant to be. And if this message resonated with you, share it with another woman who needs to hear it. Sometimes we need permission to see what we've been too afraid to acknowledge. Your awakening matters. You matter. Never forget that.